What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Arena Goat Talk. I'm your host, EJ Burt, bringing on the legends of this game. Special guest today is a Hall of Famer, former Coach of the Year, multiple Arena Bowl champion, Mr. Coach Arbet. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, EJ. Thanks for having me on, man.
No, it's my pleasure to pick your brain, and one day, hopefully, I can be like you.
Oh, she's better than me, that's for sure.
So just talking about you today, kind of get into your history, letting everybody kind of know about you, and you got a extremely successful history. I want people to know about you.
Okay, let's go.
So let's kind of start out. Where you from, and kind of like talk about your history of where you came from, how you got into coaching.
Yeah, I'm from Stockton, California. Played at Edison High School. Also, I was a track guy. I did the decathlon in college, but I'll get there. I was really into track and football in high school. Ended up going to Sacramento State, where I did the decathlon and track, and then I did football as well. It really enjoyed it. Great career, met some great people in my life. And Coach Plumtree, he's been like my mentor this whole time. He was one of the coaches at Sacramento State. And I had played arena football. And how I got into coaching, I played arena football and I got hurt and they needed a coach. And I have my degree. I also have my master's degree. And Coach took me over to Denny's at the Amigo room. That's where they used to go and drink. And he was, we need a coach. And, he's going to be full-time. Somebody got to have a degree. And I said, well, okay, let me see if anyone wants to do it. Because I definitely didn't want to coach. And he goes, no, Darren, you're going to do it. I said, but I don't know if I want to. He said, I'm not effing asking. So I go, all right. So I said, I'll give you a year. I hated it. First day was coaching. They had me doing cards and all these things. And midday came and I go, hey, I'm hungry, coach. I'm going to go grab something to eat. And he said, grab something to eat? I got 3 kids out there. I don't even know who they are. They said their coach told them to come here. 3 guys who don't have 12 units to even start practice. And he just started naming off all these things that weren't done. And he said, if you want something to eat, I got some stale donuts up there. Grab one of those and let's keep working. And my dad taught me never to quit anything. And I go, at the end of this season, I'm done. And here we stand 40 years later, I'm still doing it. So just enjoyed it. Wasn't something I wanted to do, but it's something I enjoy doing. And I'm probably going to do until they put me into the ground.
Mm-hmm. So was there, through the years, is there any kind of motivation to, you coaching?
Yes, I love football. And that's the thing I tell all the players as well who play for me. You have to love football to play for me. And I like the practice and the locker room and just all that stuff almost as more than I like the game. And when you're that way and just preparing for a game, putting it together, putting a scouting report together, just all those things, I really enjoy that. And so that's why I'm doing it all the time. I'm always doing football.
Mm-hmm. All right. So when you got into coaching, so when did you kind of develop your style of coaching, or how would you even describe your style, the environment that you're striving to create on your teams?
Like I said, my mentor is and father figure, and he basically raised me is Rick Plumtree. And so imagine this, EJ. I had a 25-year-old coach that bulldogged on the weekend. Back then, I thought I was tough, and back then in my era, you threw hands a lot, and I tried to get tough with him a couple times. And when he broke the glass and started chewing it, kind of set me straight. So this guy is chewing on glass. So he had my full attention, taught me the game, His whole thing was we're going to work harder than everyone else. Had to run to the ball. When you ran back, you had to stagger in line. So he didn't say the same thing twice. So it was really a disciplinarian type coaching system that I was raised in, let's call it. And I just kind of took that on because that's who I am. And players play, coaches coach. And he was very hard on us. And I think, I mean, shoot, I got 3 sacks in the game, player of the week in the league, and didn't start the next week because I had too many hustle violations. He's one of those coaches.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to look at hustle violations. It's great. You got 3 sacks. You're going against a guy who wasn't very good. What am I supposed to do? Jump up and down because you got 3 sacks against a guy that's subpar. But all I know, you can control hustling, and you didn't hustle every time when you were able to run and take those angles to the ball. And I was an all-league guy. I never started every game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, it's always, you try to get into people's heads to kind of see what kind of makes them, with me in particular, how I coach, I always had coaches who got to me were the coaches who maybe had like a laid back approach, even though the yelling worked too. But, with me, when you yelled at me, yeah, I'm going to do what you say. Boom, I'm going to be harder and all. But the coaches who can talk to me calmly and say, you did this wrong, I need you to do this. That's what I guess stuck with me and helped drive me. So I always like to see what other people say as far as what drives them, what kind of coaching style, sinks in and makes them do better.
I'm going to be the first one there for them. But I tell all my players, hey, I got to be your coach. Coach first, friend second, but I'm going to care about you because you're a human being. I'm going to be the first one at their house, calling them if they need something. I'm going to be the first one there. But to make them a valuable football player and to get the best out of them, I got to be their football coach.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things they don't like to do, I'm going to have to make them do those things. One of my other mentors is Mark Gorzak. He does the 40 for the NFL. He blows the whistle when guys don't start right, but the NFL loves him because Mark's very detailed. And if you try to jump him or he thinks you're trying to get it, a jump on him and you're not supposed to, he's going to blow that whistle and make you come back. He don't care if you're the guy who broke the record 2 years ago from the Kansas City Chiefs or one of the slowest linemen there. His job is his job, and he's going to do it the way he wants to do it, and he's going to do it. And the NFL loves Mark Gorzak, and that's a guy I went scouting with, and I mean, we argued for 2 days about when to go for 2 points. He's just a very thorough, and why you do that, and it's not just because this is what a piece of paper tells you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you think it out, and why would you do that? And I think in life you want to have a lot of money. You hang around people that are rich. I think you want to be a good football coach. You hang around people that's going to tell you the truth and drive you. And that's what I try to do to this day. I have a lot of people I talk to, and they're always critiquing me. And John Fry, who's the owner of the San Jose SaberCats, he and I are still friends, and he critiques me after every game, good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I guess talk about how you got introduced to the arena game, kind of your initial thought about it, and I guess your beginning journey, which you already talked about the beginning of your journey, but I guess I want you to kind of dig into the moment that you're like, oh, this is the arena football, or how you got introduced to it.
Yeah, I was at Sacramento State once again, and I was worked out for a scout for the Edmonton Eskimos, I think it was, and he timed us all, and he worked us out. I want to say his name was Ray Newman back in the day, and I got a call from a coach named Ray Wilsey, who was the LA Cobras coach, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a player. I'm going to bring in 3 guys, and we're going to play this weekend. You ever seen arena football?" And that's when it was on ESPN. It was just starting because it caught my eye because Cliff Branch was on that team, and he had just got released from the Raiders, and there was Raider coaches there. So I recognized some of the players. I said, yeah. So they flew me up. It was 3 of us, and we worked out for a couple of days, and they chose me and signed and played against the Chicago Bruisers my first game, and I fell in love with it. And then the next year, he took me to Maryland. I played for the Maryland Commandos, and got hurt. And then that's when I was hurt. And like I said, I started coaching, and Mike Hohensee got the job in Albany, and I called Mike and congratulated him. And we talked, and I had some time. I was going to go down there and just do camp, but I ended up staying and coaching there and the whole year. And that's when we lost to Orlando in the semifinals in Arizona, ended up upsetting the great Barry Wagner and the Orlando Predators and winning that championship that year. And then the next year, that's when San Jose started. And Gene Nudo, he was football operations for the league, and he gave San Jose, because I lived in Sacramento at the time, my phone number, and they called me and said, Todd Shell's our coach, and Mr. Terry Malley brought me in. He was the general manager who ended up coaching with me, and I interviewed with him and Todd, and hired me as player personnel director and special teams coordinator.
Okay, so you have a great history of success with San Jose. In your opinion, what made that that team, that organization so special?
John Fry. It starts at the top. I was in my 30s. My coaching staff was Terry Malley, Michael Church, who was D coordinator at Missouri, had been at Nebraska, had been at Cal Poly, had been at San Jose State, Bill Tripp, Boise State, Army. Those guys had forgotten more football than me, and I was the head coach. And they brought me along and did a tremendous job. And we won a lot of games, and we had some great players there, starting with Tony Kimbrough, and then we end up getting Mark Grebe, and the rest is history.
I've talked to a bunch of guys throughout the time anyway, but recently on the show, I had guys like Hernandez, have talked to Wags, and everyone talks about how great the environment is, and it was a brotherhood, and the expectation was set, and the guys kind of operated within the standard, but had fun and all that stuff. So, definitely wanted to hear your opinion on, day-to-day operations and how the players work within your structure.
John Dutton, Sam Hernandez, Mark Grebe, Barry Wagner, you have to say he's the GOAT. That's what we call him, the GOAT, or Barry will get mad at you. So I was young when I had those guys, and we worked hard. And you're right. They took on the program, and they did the program, and they worked hard and did the things that the coaches wanted them to do. And we had a lot of success, but it was a group effort. The players, there's probably 8 to 9 guys in the Hall of Fame that we had on those teams. Cleveland Thomas was just unbelievable. Wendell Davis had came from the Dallas Cowboys. Omar Smith is in the Hall of Fame. We just had Sam Hernandez, George Williams that came from the New York Giants. We just had so many guys. Phil Glover had came from the Tennessee Titans and played in the Super Bowl a couple of years before we got him. We just had some guys who could really play football.
Good. And so in your Arena Bowl championship wins, can you touch on, I guess, those years and what it took, what was special about those teams, and just that feeling?
Gosh, 2002 was that was amazing. And I saw you had John Dutton on. So Mark Grebe, we were, I want to say we were 12-0 going in to play Arizona. And Mark Grebe gets hit and separates his shoulder, and he has to have surgery. And John Dutton had stayed, which he could have played anywhere. He was, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer in this thing too. So, John, it's your show. And we lost that game. And then we played Carolina after that last game, because we had 14 games. And John went there and played great. And then we played the great Timmy Markham. And we were down, I want to say 21 points, 28 points. And we said, hey, let's just go no huddle. And we went no huddle, came back into the game. And Coach Markham, God rest his soul, he was great for arena football. They had the ball on like the 2-yard line. So the quarterback kept taking a knee. And I said to the official, I came out there and I said, hey, that ball has to go back, because that's where he's taking his knee. And George Williams, I remember, he and Clee told me, they came over, they go, coach, go back over there. I don't care where they put that ball, they're not getting into this end zone. And we held them from getting in, and we ended up winning that one. And then we ended up winning the Arena Bowl. We were up 45-0 in the Arena Bowl on Arizona, and ended up winning that thing. So that was our first one. The second one was awesome, even better than that, because we weren't even the number 1 seed, and Arizona had beat us, and we were playing in their place, sold out on NBC. They go up, and I remember Mr. Fry told me, don't kick field goals today. You got Danny White over there. He's going to score every time he gets the ball. What do I do? The first series, I tried to kick a field goal and missed it. And he was just glaring at me. So once again, a guy named Rashid Davis, who ended up going to the Bears at the end of the game, was covering Hunky, and made a play on the ball, and we won. And that was the second one in 2004. We won that one. And then in 2007, that one was Will McClay, who's with Dallas. They were 15-1. They had came to our place and beat us with a backup quarterback. But you know this game, EJ, they played Columbus. Columbus got 4 off the net for touchdowns and beat them.
Wow.
And upset them. Then we played Columbus, and it was hard when tough. That was a tough game for me, because Doug Kay was a coach, and in Albany, he was the D coordinator who really took me up under his wing and taught me the game. And obviously you want to win the game, but when you beat your mentor, and in a big game like that, that one was tough. But we got that one, and then in 15, we go 20-1 and beat Jacksonville in Stockton, in my hometown. Last game my mom had seen, and it was tough. All my friends were there. It just worked out that way, because I want to say they had Monster Truck or the Circus or something in San Jose. So we played the semifinal there against Arizona in my hometown, and then we played the Arena Bowl there, and we beat Jacksonville. And it was great just having my family there and watching me win in my hometown.
So I was going to ask you about that year, that 2015 year. For the most part, your roster kind of shifted, correct? You had different guys that you kind of relied on, I guess, in the years previous. How was it like shifting to, you got a kind of a fresh crop of guys teaching in the game or whatever? I guess, I'm thinking like, that year, what was different and how was it different to win with that era of players, I guess?
It was different. Well, I think it was about me, and that's something, Mr. Fry. We started off like 14 or 13-0 again. One of those seasons we were undefeated, and we lost to LA, who was struggling that year in overtime. And I remember the next day, and John, and I'm sure EJ, I was pretty hard on people back then, because we had to win in San Jose. And Mr. Fry said, hey, man, we're going somewhere. I said, I got a meeting, John, and then telling the owner I got a meeting. He says, hey, man, I need you. Okay. So you'll love this one, EJ. This is when LeBron was playing the Golden State Warriors. So he takes me to the game. I think he paid some stupid amount of money, crazy amount of money for tickets, and we sat right behind Cleveland's bench.
Mm.
And he said, I want you to watch the dynamics with their coach. It was a European guy that was coaching then,
I know
and,
how you talking about.
and LeBron, and just watch the way the team interacts. And he lets the team be the team with, Kyrie and all those guys. And it was just interesting watching the dynamics of, LeBron passing the ball to J.R. Smith in the corner, and he had to call a timeout. And he just said, hey, man, don't call for the ball because I always got the shot. And he just went and sat down, and just Kyrie and just the interaction and the way the coach just let him play. And he said, did you get what was happening? I need to back off and just let these guys play. I got good players. He goes, yes, let them play.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot, we went up, we were beating people by 30 and just let the young men have fun. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned coaching even this past year is the game has changed. And if I don't change with the game, probably won't have a lot of success. So those are just things. And, your standard is your standard, as Mike Tomlin say, and the things you believe in, that's what you believe in. But at some point, we all have to change and adapt to environments. And I tell the players, I don't think some people can't change, but I think everyone can adapt to an environment for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe.
Okay. So fast forward to, as recent as this year, I guess, how do you feel about the dynamic of players, the game itself? I guess kind of speak to what you've seen as a coach from previous years to the players and the environment and the game today.
I think as a coach now, from my standpoint and what I see, you have to understand each individual player and treat them as such. That first meeting, all the rules, I just tell them, hey, we're going to be disciplined and we're not going to do anything that's going to embarrass the team. But this person can do something and I'm just going to fine him. You can do something and I won't play you in the game. That's just the way it is. I think you have X amount of shots to get into that tournament and to punish the team because some young man did something. Now, if it's way out of line, then he has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned, I got to understand each individual guy, what made him tick. And once I did that, I thought it went pretty well, and they understood me. And every morning I would tell them stories about myself, or I make a guy get up and talk about himself. So we all knew each other and understood things. And I think in life, if you're a tough guy, EJ, and you act like a tough guy every day, okay, great. But, all of a sudden you're soft and, you're not trying to hit anybody in practice, and all of a sudden you're a tough guy one day. Those are the things I don't like. I don't like that. If you're consistently a tough guy, you're a tough guy. If you're consistently trying to be a star, Jerry Rice ran to the end zone every play because he wanted a touchdown. Don't want a touchdown on Thursday, and Tuesday and Wednesday you didn't do much in practice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call you out on that.
Yeah,
and that's the way I go by it. And I tried to understand the young men, and they understood me, and I thought it worked pretty good. But it starts with the coaching. I had great assistant coaches. Coach Foster, Coach Locke, Coach Payton, Coach Quattlebaum. They did a tremendous job and made sure I knew what was going on. Just made sure that I understood what changes need to be made and all those things. So you got to have a great staff, and I had one of those.
Yeah. So my experience with the guys nowadays, they don't like. Granted, it's not Iron Man anymore, but last year, two seasons ago, when we kind of flirted with Iron Man, I noticed that the guys, they're like, absolutely were against it. You know, some of them did do it, but a lot of them didn't. But there are some players that actually liked Iron Man. Um, did you experience the same thing with well, I guess in talks with your players, right?
Yes.
And you talk about how the game was. Um, what was their reaction to it?
Some wanted to show that they can do and play other positions, and then some wanted no parts of that. They just wanted to play whatever they played.
Mm-hmm.
And, fortunate for them, we didn't have to go both ways. But, with that small roster like that, you're going to have to go into a game where at every position they can cross over and play on the other side if they had to.
Mm-hmm.
At least know what they're doing, and then let's call it getting away of the offense or getting away of the defense. So and they got to play special teams. Some of these young men, they I can get you 4 or 5 touchdowns, or I can rush, but special team, well, if you can't play special teams, you can't play for me. And that's what I believe in, and I'm not going to change on that. And then some things you believe in and you're just not going to change on.
I try to talk to especially the younger guys that have NFL aspirations. Look here, you're gonna if you want to go to the NFL, more than likely you're gonna have to play some special teams. So you're gonna have to figure it out, playing arena to give yourself a chance. Because if you go to camp and they have top-notch receivers, and you're not better than any of those guys, well, the best bet for you is to be good on the special teams. So why not perfect that now? And then, once you get to NFL camp, say, hey, I can do this too. I can return kicks. I can do this. Give yourself a chance. But, some guys listen, some guys don't. Or some guys they're yes or no, sir, to your face. But in their motivation and what they do, it doesn't reflect what they said to you.
Right. And you're right, Coach, because let's say a receiver goes to the NFL. Most likely he's going to be the 4th or 5th receiver, and he's going to have to play special teams. And that's what they're going to be looking at for him to stay on the team. That special teams coach is going to really have to speak up for him in the meet. I've been in those meetings, and then they're going to have to speak up and say, hey, I want him, and I think he can help me on special teams. And then once that happens, that 4th spot might be yours, because in NFL, I think we all know that 4th and 5th spot, the 7th, 6th, 7th guy you cut, similar talent. It's just a matter of who's going to play special teams better in most cases.
Mm-hmm. One example that I've used through the years, and I got him on the show, Rashid. He's an example. I was like, man, you look at this guy. He went to the NFL and showed that he can do whatever you ask him to do. He could play receiver. He can play defense. He can play, special teams. I always use him as an example. So I was, and I was able to get him on the show. I always wanted to hear his stories. Arena's like a brotherhood. So you're sitting here, you may not talk to a guy, but you watch him through the years and he has success, and you're like, man, you know what I mean? That's my boy. Yeah. You're just like, I'm proud of that dude, even though I don't know him. I played against him. So, but I always use Rashid as an example of what it looks like when you get an arena guy that can do multiple things, kind of a Swiss Army knife. The Swiss Army knife goes to the NFL and does great things. I guess, can you speak on Rashid's experience from your point of view?
Wow. Rashid Davis. Hard worker, was a great DB. That's what he went to the Bears as a defensive back and a return guy. But then they got Devin Hester, who's, one of his really good friends. And he went to receiver and started at slot in the Super Bowl. And I'll tell you, Mr. Malley, Terry Malley was the offensive coordinator, and he was our GM. We all called him TM, the GM. He was very instrumental in Rashid Davis developing, as well as Rashid. He worked hard. He was one of the hardest working guys that I had. He was really fast. He was always fast. Didn't play high school football, as you know. Went to junior college to play, then played at San Jose State, and then came to us. So when the Bears had called, I know Coach Churches said, hey, he hasn't played a lot of football. And he got there, and carved out a great career, great person, great teammate, works hard. The Sabercats, and I said it earlier, and most coaches, players, coaches, Sabercats was just an organization that, I mean, look at the coaches we had: Church, Malley, Tripp, Kevin Guy, Cedric Walker, Jeff Jarnigan, Tyrone Peace, Corey Mayfield. They just won the NAL. All those guys were on the Sabercats staff. Dave Wattoon, and I know I'm missing some, but Jasper Harvey, Kerry Lachlan, who I have. It was just so many guys who've come in there, as well as players. A lot of NFL guys played for the Sabercats. And as I always used to tell people when they would, when I go in these Hall of Fames, I said, shoot, Donald Duck could have coached this team and did my job. I mean, it was great. I had some tremendous guys, and I was hard on them, and they bought into it, though. Sam Hernandez, I mean, come on, he's one of the best to ever do it. Being able to watch him do it every week was unbelievable. Joe Jacobs, Darren Kinney, Bob McMillan, just all those guys played for the Sabercats. It was just amazing being around them every day.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it seems through the years, either the championship was won, by you guys, or a team had to go through you guys. As you look through the years, you look at when Philly won, or I forget who else it was. I think Jacksonville maybe. When they won, they still had to go through San Jose for a championship. So it kind of speaks to the environment that you guys put together. It was great watching. And as a competitor, we wanted to do that ourselves.
Practices were hard. There was a lot of competition there. I mean, Reggie Gray comes in, Darius Reynolds, Maurice Purify, just a lot of guys. When we go 20-1, we had a lot of pass rushers, a lot of defensive backs. It was great. The fullbacks, kickers. We've had some great kickers. Jason Myers with the Seattle Seahawks. He played for the Sabercats. So just a great group of people and front office. I can go and name names there too. Just great people with the same goal. Just wanted to win football games.
Definitely. So what advice would you give, a player that's looking to play? Maybe they're at a crossroads of whether they want to try arena football out, they want to play professional football a little longer, or whatever the case may be. I guess, what kind of advice would you give, those guys?
Like I give coaches, and I gave myself. I was rusty at the beginning of the year because I didn't coach last year. I think in sports, if you play basketball, you got to play basketball. If you're a football player, you got to play football. Just working out doesn't get it. I was just watching football games, and it's easy to say, hey, EJ should have did this with the Predators, sitting here in my comfortable living room. But when that pressure's on you and you got to make that call, coach, you made it 1,000 times. It's different. It's different. And you coached them up all week, and, hey, you can beat them on this, but we didn't practice it this week. So what do? I would tell them to play football wherever you can get on and play, because the other thing is you're not going to be able to do this for a long time, because at some point life is going to catch up with the children, the family, all those things, and you're going to have to move on anyway.
Definitely.
And I missed the stench in the locker room, the practices, the meetings, being tired and showing up and still getting it done. Those early mornings, those late nights, sit there watching film and falling asleep. All those things I can't get back. And the greatest thing about this, and I tell all the players, you can work at Safeway, you can work at any job, but what job can we do 1,000%, give 1,000% all week long, feel that we did everything that we can do with the game plan, practice, pushing the guys, and then depending on what that scoreboard says, your emotions is going to be one way or the other. Can't pay for it, can't buy it. And I think that's what we're all chasing. I know that's what I'm chasing. It's just an adrenaline that you get that you can't get it anywhere else except in sports. Maybe, in sports.
Yeah. So in your talks just now made me think of a question for you. So when you first came back, right, and coaching with Nashville, what did your first couple days kind of feel like? Interacting with the guys. Of course, you may have some emotions of, what past teams felt like, that environment, those players. What did it feel like when you first came back with Nashville, interacting with the players in that environment?
I like the challenge. It was a challenge getting to know those young men, not understanding who I was. It was great. Some players, you don't know who I am. And I'd say their name. Yeah, I know who you are. No, 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 coach. I was all this in the NAL. Oh, great, man. That's great. So, I mean, I'll help you out. Okay, thank you. Then they'll come back. So you won 4 of these things. Yeah, I've been to 5. Been to a few of them. Yeah. You're in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But I don't call them out. It's pretty cool because I'm old enough. I call one young man. I told him I was calling him Gilligan. He said, "Why you calling me Gilligan?" I said, "Because Gilligan's Island." He goes, "Who's that?" They're that young, and I'm just like, wow, this is pretty cool. They're young, so it's an opportunity for me to continue to grow as a coach. So those first couple of days, and I call my wife. I go, "This is different. This is great. It's challenging me. Besides just getting up and playing golf every day, this is challenging me." And I got to thank Jeff Fisher. Gave me an opportunity to coach the Nashville Cats. It's one of the great franchises in indoor football, and I got an opportunity to coach them this year. I can't thank him enough.
All right, so I appreciate you coming on. I don't want to hold you up too much longer. I definitely wanted to have you on again. You one of the best coaches to ever do this thing, so I definitely wanted to pick your brain. And one thing that that kind of bothers me about the game now, the players, as you know, they don't know about the legends of this game. So, the whole one of the ideas about this, I started this is to try to connect the old and the new. You know what I mean? So that the young guy can kind of understand, look here, this is somebody that's been doing it and doing it at a high level for years. You need to know who this guy is instead of, just he's just a coach. You know what I mean? No, it ain't just a coach. You better, do your research. Like it bothers me the guys don't understand, the history. And so, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on and spending some time telling your story. And good luck to everything that you're doing, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Coach.
All right. Okay, thanks.